I've been exploring love and integrity in business for over 20 years, and my journey has taken me from a boardroom on London Bridge through to number 10 Downing Street, from Shanghai to New York, from giant conversations with people from aged 8 to 80, and private interviews with some of the chairmen of the world's leading businesses. My adventure has taken place in boardrooms, in businesses, for profit and not for profit. And through it, I've learnt something very simple. And it's just good business. So it started for me on London Bridge, right in the centre, in the heart of the city of London. There I was, 20 years ago, a young chief executive addressing my board. I was like any other chief executive. I just wanted to get results. And I was a numbers queen. But I was discovering that getting results wasn't just about the numbers. I'd been talking to our clients and our customers, our employees, and I'd found out something, and I was bursting to tell our board. I said, you know, they don't come to us because we're so clever. They come to us because of who we are, because of our values. They say to me, I feel respected by you as a firm. You're really commercial. You get results, but they're the results I need for my business. They help me achieve what I want to achieve. And our employees said, you treat us fairly. You make us feel trusted and responsible. And then I said to the board, for those of you who are squeamish, you better cover your ears, because I call this love and integrity in business. Well, when they'd gathered their breath a bit, I carried on. You see, it's really quite easy. If we tell everyone what our values are, then we'll attract people who are like us. And the people who aren't won't want to work for us. And our clients will want us to advise them. So we'll have more fun, life will be a lot easier, we'll solve our clients' problems quickly and easily, so we'll get more business. It'll be good for our business, not just now, but we'll make profit long into the future and be able to hand this business over in much better shape than we found it. It seemed obvious to me it was just good business. But as I stand here now, I see that back then, nobody talked about values, certainly not in business, but we were living them. Fast forward to the global financial crisis, and we had our values plastered all over our walls. They were all on our websites. Everyone talked about our values, but they weren't being lived, not by everyone. There was a deficit of love and integrity in business. So I thought it was simple, but I was to discover it wasn't quite that easy. I decided to ask other people, and I set up the Love and Integrity in Business Network, and I invited business leaders to talk about love and integrity in business. Now, they had no trouble with the integrity bit, but they were a bit uneasy about love. They said, do you really need that word? Surely, don't you just mean business ethics? Or do you mean something spiritual? Like the inspiration and creativity that drives entrepreneurs? Maybe you mean we should give our profits to the poor. And if they'd had the language we have today, they'd have said, you mean corporate responsibility, don't you? Why don't you just call it sustainability? I began to doubt myself. I thought I need to find out about all these different things. So I did. I taught business ethics. I practiced as a chief executive. I even had the opportunity to join the board of an international business that turned over $2 billion. And on that board, I had responsibility for our corporate governance and embedding our values right across the world after 5 mergers. Now I'm working with the Lord Mayor in the City of London to help restore trust and integrity. It's been an incredible journey. And along that journey, I've kept asking myself, is it business ethics? Is it corporate responsibility? Is it sustainability? And of course, it's all those things. All those things give us the tools to do the right thing. They help us present the evidence to prove to people that we are doing the right thing. But I still keep finding something's missing. Something is missing. And it seems to be some kind of magic ingredient that certain people have. And it's everywhere in some successful companies. And others just don't seem to have it. But I'd like to explore this with you by giving you 3 examples from my career and invite you to think about your own experience of business. And let's see if we can find what this magic ingredient is. As a chief executive, one of my jobs was, of course, to set the budget for the year. And I'd work with the partners to discuss and agree how much they thought they would bill. And over the years, I noticed something strange. Some of the partners just would sail past their targets without any trouble at all. And some of them just didn't seem to do it. And I wondered why. Well, over the years, I discovered there were some people who just loved their clients, and some who loved the law. And there were others who got fixated on the money and the numbers. And the ones who loved their clients, well, they just kept getting more of them. They created jobs, there was lots of work, and they really had plenty for those who loved the law. But the ones who were focused on the numbers, their business was boom or bust. They never seemed to quite build those relationships with their clients. So, it seems to me that when we have this magic ingredient, our businesses flourish, and we grow them and create jobs. And without it, we can't get past the numbers to the people. But what's your experience? Have you felt that magic ingredient as a customer? Are there certain companies that you never want to buy from? And others that you always buy from? What's the difference? And what happens when you fall out of love with a product? What's gone wrong? What suddenly is missing for you? What is that missing ingredient? Shit happens. And just after that experience on London Bridge, the recession hit. It happens to all businesses eventually, and especially young chief executives. I realised that we didn't have enough work for everyone. And if we didn't get any, our salary bill would eat up all our profits. But we had a problem. Because as a business, we had never asked anyone to leave for lack of work. So I went to our board and I laid out the problem. And they were very upset and very reluctant to ask anyone to leave. So we discussed all the options. And in the end, they decided they'd have to cut their profit forecast substantially, but they'd also have to ask people to leave. They decided to ask 50 people to leave. That was 15% of our staff. It was a huge, huge cut. But they said, we want you to script every one of those 50 conversations so that they are delivered personally by the people who know them best, and to make clear it's not their fault, it's our fault for not having enough business. And then they said, we want you to choreograph the day and make sure that whilst those people are being told that they're going to be asked to leave, those who are staying are being told by their team leaders. It was a shitty day. But at the end of it, the partners got on the phones and called their friends and their contacts, and they found jobs for almost everyone. A few years later, I discovered that one of our competitors had thought it would be more loving to keep their people, keep them in jobs. And of course, the recession didn't go away, it just got worse. And finally, they had to cut, and they had to cut very deep. They also panicked, and they gave everyone a message that they were to come to either one room or another. And those in this room were told, "You're staying." And those in this room were told, "You're leaving." And the ones who left, of course, found it really hard to get a job. And the ones who stayed felt miserable. Morale fell, performance fell, and that company took years to recover. So with this magic ingredient, we can build the flexibility and resilience to adapt when a crisis hits. And without it, our businesses just stagnate. What's your experience of what companies have done during the recession, or what you've done as a business leader? I know from personal experience, it's absolutely awful when you're made redundant, but it makes a huge difference how people tell you and how they help you find another job. My last example is about loving people during the good times. We'd done 5 mergers, and we were now a business of 5,000 people across the world. And we discovered that we were not being consistent in who we took on as our clients, and that was threatening our reputation. So we needed to do something. Now, the obvious thing to do in that situation is to write some rules and tell everyone this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. But that wasn't our culture. And our board agonized about it, and eventually they said, we're going to trust our people. We're going to give them 4 questions that they have to ask themselves before they take on any new work. And the 4 questions were, and these are very common questions we can all use every day: is it legal? How does it smell? What if it appeared on the front page? What would be the headline, and could you live with it? And how would you tell your mother? We've all had that experience, haven't we? When we're limited by rules and regulations. It builds overheated bureaucracies. But if we trust people, then they will do the right thing. With some good questions. So what about you? Where do you see that magic ingredient in your relationship with business? In these examples, it all started in the boardroom. And the boardroom is critical because it's in the boardroom that the tone is set. But no matter how much we preach about values, actually, people look to the leaders to see how they actually act. And there are several business leaders who have really inspired me recently and over the years. One of them is Ray Anderson. He was an international carpet entrepreneur, and he loved the planet. And one day he discovered that carpet was one of the worst culprits of damage to the environment. So he called his people together and he said, I want us to do no harm and take nothing from the planet. Within 12 years, they'd reduced their carbon tonnage by 83%, increased their turnover by 2/3, and doubled their profit. Paul Pullman at Unilever has committed to double turnover and half their environmental footprint. And Ian Cheshire, the chief executive of Kingfisher, which is a home improvement retailer across Europe, he's committed not just to go zero on the carbon emissions in the environment, but to go net positive, and not just in the business, but with his customers, so their homes are net positive. But it's not just business leaders either. I've been privileged to have some very, very courageous people around me. For example, my personal assistant, who one day said to me, Oonagh, you're an awful lot happier when your daughter's visiting. Oh, I said, so what am I like when she's not here? Well, she said, you can be a bit angry. I had to clean up my act at work. My other example was when I was a young chief executive. I was rather aggressively negotiating a contract with our computer suppliers who had underperformed. So my IT director took me aside and said, Oonagh, If you go on like this, you're going to drive these guys out of business. And we need a good relationship with them for the next 5 to 10 years. I realized it was about our suppliers as well as our people and our clients. Those people had the courage, and they had that missing ingredient. So we can all do it. On the planet today, we face some enormous challenges. But the good news is that there are businesses and business leaders and people right on the front line of business who inspire people to act ethically, who inspire those around them to be entrepreneurial and be creative and find solutions, and who inspire people to act responsibly. They have this magic ingredient. And without it, we just have boom and bust. With it, business flourishes now and for the future generations. Without it, we just have low morale, underperformance and stagnation. With it, we have growing businesses, and we have the flexibility and resilience to adapt when things go wrong. Without it, we just get more rules and regulations to control us, and we build overheated bureaucracies. With it, we build trust. So, I hope you'll agree with me that it's really simple. Business is all about relationships between us, human beings. And we all know that our relationships flourish with love and integrity. And so does business. So, we just need to bite the bullet and call that magic ingredient love and integrity in business. Thank you.